Welcome to the Heart Rate Variability Podcast, where we explore the exciting science behind heart rate variability. The material discussed in this podcast should not be taken as medical advice. Please check with your medical provider to make sure any suggestions or strategies are right for you. Visit us at the OptimalHRV.com website to learn more about the Optimal HRV app, download a free copy of Matt's book, Heart Rate Variability, and also get show notes and additional resources around heart rate variability and its applications. Improve our overall wellness, both from a mental health perspective, cognitive health, medical health, social health, all those things that are related to heart rate variability that we talked about throughout these episodes. So I'm excited. I know I have my thoughts on this, but I also will readily admit that your expertise well exceeds mine, especially with your background in training. You're a professional athlete. You are a chiropractor. I call you a doctor. So I'm excited to jump into this. So I'll just turn it over to you. Let's just start. What are some, we're going to start a little bit smaller here and then build up to more complexity as we go forward. But let's start with, I guess to throw the question is, what do you do? What are some of the strategies that you kind of put on the radar of the folks that you work with professionally? What can I do to improve my heart rate variability?
Well, Matt, I love this topic because I can tell you all the time. I get patients asking me about this. I always try to get people started on things to improve their heart rate variability, to improve their global health, right, as a result. So I always want to get people started on this, and then I get the questions very quickly. Well, what supplement can I take?
Give me a pill, Dr. Dave. Give me a pill.
And that's where I always say no. We have a lot of things to do before we get to talking about supplements. We have a lot of things to do before we talk about cold showers, right? Like we kind of have alluded to in our past episode. There is some very, very basic things that everybody needs to have down. Just first, this is ground level stuff. If you don't have these things down, then don't think about the higher level stuff. Because that's where, if you're not nailing the basic level stuff, and I'm talking about things as basic as sleep. If you're not nailing that, then you're just throwing your money in the garbage when you're spending it on supplements. You are wasting your time in the gym, potentially. It is these basic level things that need to be happening the right way in order for you to be seeing these results. And a lot of times when people get the basics down, what they find is, oh my gosh, I feel amazing. I'm looking amazing. And what's this? My heart rate variability is telling me that I am doing amazing, right? You see some nice steady climbing happening with that heart rate variability, which is what we want to see. No crazy jumps with that. So that's where we're at, and that's where I want to talk about today, or what I want to talk about today is all of those basic things that a lot of people often miss. So if you're ready for that, let's
do it. Yes.
Okay. So the first basic thing that I'm going to talk about is so basic that a lot of people are going to say, why are you talking to me about that? And that is breathing. Many people do not breathe properly. And I know we have another guest who would be amazing to talk about this with. And I'd love to get her take on all of this too, but it's breathing. And why do so many people breathe improperly? It's because most people in the world do exactly what you and I are doing right now, Matt. And that is we sit at computers, we're in a hunched over posture, our head falls forward, right? Our core totally disengages, and we have a diaphragm that just collapses. And now all of a sudden we can't use our diaphragm, which is what does the majority of our breathing for us. And then what do you see? You see this.
Yeah.
people's mouths open and they're breathing, all of these kinds of things. So the best thing that we can all do is sit up nice and tall, right? Allow our diaphragm to actually do what it needs to do, right? So that our diaphragm can come down, pull air into our lungs, and then push and push back out, right? That's what we want to see happening. And then another big thing with breathing is you're breathing through your nose or breathing through your mouth. And there's a lot of people out there who breathe through their mouth, and that is unfortunate because your nose does a lot of wonderful things for your air as it comes into your body. So when you breathe in through your mouth, air is coming in cold, it's coming in too fast, it's coming in unfiltered, and you're missing a huge shot of nitric oxide, which is really cool, right? That we get that as we breathe in. So when you breathe in through your nose, you're getting all of these added benefits, and as a result, we can actually take more oxygen out of that air, which is really cool.
Awesome. So this mouth breather stereotype, is there something really to that? Because you hear, probably ages me a little bit, but mouth breather was not a really complimentary thing to say to somebody at certain points of my, adolescence.
So yes, there is something to that. Where the stereotypic mouth breather is not somebody who is in very good shape typically, right? Yeah. And as well, it's usually portrayed in TV shows and whatnot as somebody of a lower IQ. And yeah, I mean, your body's not functioning as well. You're missing out on a lot. And Matt, you get so, when you're breathing in through your mouth, your oral tissues are literally becoming inflamed in the process. It's going to encourage more mouth breathing as a result. And you're going to see things like, does this person snore at night? Do they gargle? Do they have inflamed tonsils, adenoids, that kind of stuff, which is going to make breathing through the nose even harder. And then equally too, your nasal turbinates will become inflamed when they're not getting used. So that's another thing that we want to think about. Like,
so okay. What are those? Help me out with nasal.
I'm sorry. Yes, your nasal turbinates. So as you breathe in, you have these bones, and they are going to spin your air. So they're going to spin the air very fast, and it's really cool what turbinates do. So when you breathe in through your nose, it spins the air so fast and it flings all of the small particles. We're talking about bacteria, we're talking about viruses, all those little things, and it sticks them to the walls. And then what reaches the back of your nasopharynx, or the back of your throat, right behind your nose, is really, really clean air that doesn't have any of that stuff in it. So, cool. So that's really cool. Our body's filtration system is honestly better than any filtration system that you can pay hundreds of dollars for to have sit in the corner of your room. So it's really cool. Just breathe through your nose. Bottom line. And then
I've heard some strategies. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Of like, if you are a mouth breather when you sleep, to actually put tape over your mouth. Have you ever I was like, what? So sometimes some of this stuff seems a little out there. I don't have that problem most nights. My wife does tell me I snore occasionally. But would you recommend that to folks? I thought that was crazy when I heard it, but it kind of makes sense with what you're giving us here.
So absolutely. I'm a big proponent of mouth taping, which if you suggest that to somebody who's never heard of this, you want me to tape my mouth?
I was just glad I'm a nose breather when I sleep, because doesn't seem comfortable when we talk about sleep. But hey, I was fascinated by it.
Yeah, actually, a guy, there's a dentist actually out of Colorado Springs. I want to say Dr. Frank Seaman, if I'm not mistaken. he has done a ton in that. Actually, what's the big mountain over there in
Pikes Peak.
there you go, Pikes Peak. He summited that with his mouth taped.
Wow.
So yeah, and it's really cool. Try breathing through your mouth while just through your nose while you're exercising. It's actually quite intense.
Yeah, I've started that when I've run, and it's a very different experience. It was funny. It's how I ran. I trained myself to do it, but then I was running with a mask on, and I just had to go back to mouth breathing because I just couldn't run and get enough air in with the mask and the nose breathing. But now that I'm okay to go out without a mask, it's getting back to that. So it's kind of fun to go back to training. I'm in the I don't know if you've had the snot stage of nose breathing while exercising, where it's
yes,
just kind of gross for the first few times you do it. I will own that piece of it.
Yeah, no, it can be very gross.
Yeah. but tell me, what am I doing? Because sometimes I adopt these things. I heard them somewhere else, and I forget. So why would someone like me try to? Is it the same thing what you talked about? But what is the nose breathing doing for me during exercise?
So honestly, during exercise, breathe through your mouth if that's what's most comfortable. It's more of a challenge for yourself when you're doing cardio or something of that nature. It actually makes it a lot more difficult as you've experienced. Yes. There is you can absolutely breathe through your mouth while exercising, especially if you're going into high intensity stuff. Do not feel bad about that. That's why we have accessory breathing muscles.
Do not pass out on the treadmill because of our podcast.
No. That's there's a lot of mechanisms at play for running from bears and exercising.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's it's at rest, and especially while we're sleeping. That's when nasal breathing is of the most importance. Awesome. We want to see that, and then you can get into the difference between chest breathing and belly breathing. What type of rate are you breathing at? All of these kinds of things, which I would say let's talk about that right now, but I want to make sure that we touch on the other basics.
Great.
And also, if for people who may have seen our app, a lot of that stuff, if you're breathing at your resonance frequency, which you can learn through our app, if you're doing any of that biofeedback training, it's going to be talking about some of that in there too.
Yeah.
And definitely something we can talk about more, but honestly, I would love to have, somebody else talk a little bit more on that.
The three of us will, I could nerd out about this topic as well. So let's move on. So we don't get stuck on one. Let's move on. What's your next basic for us?
So once you're breathing properly, well, now let's talk about sleep. And something that I should mention as well. Matt, I know you know this, but I did while I was in school getting my doctorate. I was a research assistant doing research all on obstructive sleep apnea. So I went real deep in proper breathing and proper sleep, breathing while you're sleeping, all those kinds of things. I went super deep on the research. And so my goal was to find the best natural therapies for all of those things. So that was that's where I've gotten a lot of this knowledge and a lot of my motivation here, and learned how important all of it is. Anyway, as we talk about sleep here, so sleep is, next to breathing is the most important thing. We breathe all the time, right? You can't go too long without breathing. And you also can't go too long without sleeping. And we all have seen the effects of a little bit of poor sleep. And honestly, for anybody out there who is checking your HRV on a regular basis, go without sleep, or just shorten your sleep. Even just by a few hours, and see how much that affects your HRV. most of the time you'll feel it, but take a look. You have the objective number right there when you measure your HRV. Look at the difference on a night that you sleep awesome versus the night that you skimp on some of your sleep. Or if you're like me and you have young kids and you get disturbed many times throughout the night. So
well, and it's funny as we record this, the NBA playoffs are on, and I don't watch tons of sports, but there are peak times throughout the year, and this is one I really enjoy, the playoffs. But and I know I'm on Mountain Time. I don't know how East Coast folks do. Even Central Time is tough. I would argue we're lucky out here on the West, but the games start at 8 and they go to like 11. And I know there's folks in New York that are just like cussing me out now because I ask them, when do you sleep? We just don't. But it's like, it was interesting, my HRV, because a few games I was really interested in was going 11:30. I usually am heading to bed around 9:30 because I know how important this is. I saw like, what was it? 70% drop in my HRV score from one day to the next.
Yeah.
I'm like, seriously? Like, it was only like maybe an hour and a half, at most 2 hours. I gave myself a little bit more time to sleep in the morning. I'm sure you're going to talk about consistency of sleep, but
Yes.
it was amazing. I'm like, and the Nuggets won. Like it's like, I could see if the Nuggets lost, and I like, it's just like, no, but it is so right. And those, even like losing an hour had like a 65-70% drop from day to day. Went to bed normal time last night, back up, probably jumped to 80%. I'm like, the Nuggets are playing again tonight, and I'll probably watch it. But at least I know what I'm doing to myself.
Yes, if you're aware of it, at least it's a little better.
It's a choice. It's like drinking a beer. It's a choice. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. That's what's that? TiVo, right? What is it?
Yeah, I know. I know. But watching the game at like it's 7 a.m, I don't know. And then our friend Jeff will text me throughout the game, so. I know. I can be better, Dr. Dave. I can be better.
Yes. Well, I know there's a lot of guilty people out there in the same boat as you.
Yes.
You get caught up in things and you stay up much later than anticipated. As for me, I find myself in bed well before most nights.
Yes.
But again, the little kid thing, you sleep when you get it. So but yes, as you said, consistency of sleep. There is a lot that I would love to dive really deep in about sleep, as far as like hacks for sleep, this and that. Even supplements, to help with sleep when you're traveling, all of those kinds of things, which are awesome topics to get into. But what I want to touch on here is the most important parts of sleep, the basics of sleep. Are you getting 8 hours? And I'm not talking about 8 solid hours of sleep. I'm talking about, are you in bed for 8 hours? Do you have an 8-hour opportunity for sleep? And that's something that has shown to be the most important thing. And then are you going to end up sleeping 8 hours that whole time? No. But if you're winding up, somewhere in that 6 to 8 hour category, you're going to be doing pretty good.
So I'd love to ask you this question because, what I'm seeing, and most of the wellness books I read, most of the wellness material I read is in book format. So I know when you read books, there's a delay between research and integration and then publication and a book, from journal to book sort of thing. Because one of the things I'd love to ask you is, back, I would say 10 years ago, and there's some genetic variation here as far as I understand it, but you would sort of see 7 to 8 hours of sleep. That was pretty standard. What I'm seeing now in some of the books I'm reading is kind of dropping to 7 and really talking about, unless you're won the lottery in genetics for sleep, which we know some people, like I always like to say, if you wake up totally refreshed, great. If you can't remember the last time you woke up totally refreshed like me, this is something to pay attention to. So I'm kind of wondering what you're seeing, because as these sleep monitors get on us in different ways, I'm really seeing this shift to 8 or more. And I think my own personal experience with the sleep monitor I had on for a couple of years was you need 8.5 hours of sleep. Not time in bed, but sleep. So I'd love to like run with the 7 hours of sleep thing again, because I can work my NBA playoffs into that. But I'm kind of wondering, it just seems like we almost underestimated, and because of our high stress lifestyles, it is getting more around 8. And like I said, then my feedback, 8.5 hours of sleep a night, like was probably my normal need, according to something I paid a lot to measure this with.
Yes. Well, you hit the nail right on the head when you said, unless you won the genetic lottery, you need less than 8 hours of sleep or sleep opportunity. And that couldn't be more accurate. It is such a small percentage of the population. Just assume that you are not one of those. Yeah. Is your safest bet for anybody.
And stay anonymous, because we will all hate you if you raise your hand. We would.
It's a very large rarity to the point that I would just assume that you probably aren't, and you probably don't know anybody who is. Right. So do yourself and your friends a favor and go to bed early. But with that, yes, because there was that, for a little bit, there was I think it was more of a misunderstanding than anything. People saying that you need 6 to 8 hours of sleep, but it's 6 to 8 hours of actual sleep. 8 hours of time in bed, so there's quite a difference there. And then Matt, like you're saying, now some people do find, especially when you're living a higher stress lifestyle, or going through different phases of your life, where you are going to need more time in bed. Right. Think about little kids, think about babies. How much time are they spending? I wish you could spend some of that time. That's a doorbell at the clinic, letting us know that we have patients here. So sorry about that.
He is a real doctor with the doorbell.
Yes. Yeah, that's been our policy. People have to wait out in the common area instead of using our beautiful lobby right now. So, but anyway, I'm sorry. I was talking about how some people are going to need more hours of sleep. And that's totally true. The thing is the only way you can figure that out is to try. I think I believe I've heard that go on vacation and not on an alcohol night, right? Which I guess when are you on vacation and not drinking alcohol? But if you can find that situation where you don't have to wake up the next day, let yourself sleep in, and see when you would naturally wake up, and that can give you a much better estimate of how much time you actually need when you don't have to get up. And then you want to try to push yourself towards that. Now, I have definitely seen, that when you start getting into that, 10 plus hours of sleep, actually, now you're looking at something detrimental, where you see that people who are sleeping lengths of that amount are typically very sick people, or you see that they are just less healthy, in one way or another in general, which I found very interesting. And I would love to, dig deeper on that as well. But it is interesting. You see that, okay, the optimal level, and then just like anything, too much of a good thing becomes bad. Exactly. So is it the extra sleep that is bad, or is it that these people have something wrong with them and that's why they're sleeping extra? That's kind of one of those to be determined things out there. But so you want to find that sleep window for yourself. And then not only consistency in the number of hours that you're spending in bed, but we also want to find that is that you're going to sleep and waking up at the same time every day. including weekends.
I know. And playoffs. And yeah.
And playoffs. Yes. Yeah. So that is another tough thing for a lot of people to nail. But you know, it has to do with our circadian rhythm. It has to do with our hormones being released at the right times. If you are going to sleep one night at 7 o'clock, you go to bed the next night at 10 o'clock, you know, and you're all over the board. Your body's not going to really understand what you're doing here, and you're not going to get your sleep hormones, right? Your melatonin boost right when you need it to start directing your body towards bed. And that's super important. And then that gets us into, you know, developing a sleep routine and sleep hygiene and all of those kinds of things, which again, for another episode where we might dive deeper on sleep, because we really want to get into that stuff. How to set yourself up properly so that you do get that hormone release at the right time. Yep. You know, how to cue yourself throughout the day to make sure that your sleep is going to be most optimal. So yeah, but again, don't want to go too far on sleep because we have a lot that I want to cover. And
Look
I know
at us just delaying gratification on all these topics. I love it. I love it. All right, what do you got for us next?
So nutrition, you know, which is going to be one of the next largest points here. And I also have water within that because a lot of people don't think about nutrition and water. They just think about the food that I'm eating and not the water that I'm consuming. And the consumption of water, and I'm talking not drinks, water, just water is very, very important. And most people don't realize this, but you should be consuming at least half your body weight in ounces of water every single day, right? So I weigh 200 pounds, right? So that means I should be drinking at least 100 ounces of water every day. And, you know, measure how much water you drink each day. That's a lot of water. So, as you know, for most listeners out there, you're gonna do that quick calculation and go, oh my gosh, I have a long way to go. Yeah. And I don't know if that was what you just did in your own head too, Matt. But
well, it's funny. You know, honestly, I did not think much about hydration until moving out to Colorado, where it's I mean, find someone without an algae bottle walking around, you know, where we all, you know, and it's really interesting having adapted from the Midwest environment where humidity is both in the summer. I didn't realize it was humid in the winter. It's like, boy, we're miserable all seasons, at least in, you know, in Indiana, at least where I'm from. You come out to Colorado, sun's out all year round. You have, you know, no humidity, which is actually a great thing weather-wise. But yeah, it's just how much I drink water. And a little funny story here is when I go to places like, you know, the Chicagoland area, it's weird when I come back to this altitude and this, the dryness, there's a 12-hour purge of water. I won't get into the details of how that happens. I'm sure, you know, biologically everybody's got that, but it's like, my talk about sleep quality. It's like, all of a sudden my body's like, okay, I went to the Midwest. I absorbed all this because I'm still drinking the same amount I drink in Colorado. Right. And it's like, yeah, it's crazy how my body just adjusts based on, I probably a little bit of altitude, but I just think the dry of the Mountain West, you know, climate.
Oh my gosh, that is super interesting. I have to pay attention to that because that's well, I guess the next time I go visit Colorado, I'm gonna really pay attention to how that works out.
Yes, I noticed that. I've never really said that out loud because it's a little embarrassing, but you know, it's just like this, it's amazing to see what happens when you shift those climates. And it's something I've tried to do with traveling is, you know, because on a plane, you're kind of supposed to drink more because it's a very also, but it's like, so I can win on one end, but I pay for it on the other. It's an interesting thing being in this climate. So we probably need at least probably an additional half ounce per body weight with how dry we are here. So
absolutely. And that's that's another great point there too, is that you have to adjust any recommendation that you get from any doctor. You have to adjust to fit you. When you toss out a general recommendation, that's exactly it. You have to fit it to your lifestyle. Because the other thing that I'm going to add to that is as well, if you are consuming coffee throughout the day, then you are going to need every cup of coffee you have, add another cup of water, add another 8 ounces of water to that recommendation. If you're consuming soda, first of all, stop. Please stop. And then next thing, add another 8 ounces of water there.
And just dump the soda out.
Right. That would be the best move.
So is that caffeine that's doing that? Like, I'm a tea drinker, so do I need to worry about that like the coffee drinkers do?
Well, when we talk about caffeine, and soda for that regard, the caffeine is going to make it a diuretic. So you are going to, lose more that way. So that's part of it. But honestly, it's the extra stuff that's coming in. So not so much for the coffee, but for something like soda, we want to dilute a little more too. Right. And then when we talk, other times when you're going to want to add more in, is if you are exercising, which is a topic that we may or may not have time to get to today. Is again, if you're exercising at any intensity, you're gonna want to drink more water because you're losing more water. So we want to do that. Now for tea, you have more solute coming in. So would it be a bad idea to add more water? Not at all. It's never a bad idea to add more water.
Right.
I have this argument with my wife. She's like, no, you don't understand. If I drink more water, I have to pee more. And that means that I take more breaks throughout the day. And then I'm not getting as much done. And I'm like, but you need more water.
More water. Yeah, you do. So let me ask you another thing I heard and I've adopted into my routine is I drink about a liter of water. And I'm for people who don't know me, 6'7", about 215. So give you some, but I drink a liter of water in my morning routine. Have you seen any, this was something I heard along the way somewhere, but have you heard any of that, like to consume maybe if you're, a normal sized person, it would just be like maybe a pint or something, a half a liter, but anything about sort of starting out with a good dose of water in the morning that benefits you throughout the day?
Well, first of all, I like you just throwing the rest of us into that normal sized person category. The rest of us aren't giants. Yes. I
got to throw it out because some people maybe your wife, a liter would really throw her day off in the morning. So
yeah, no, I really support that. And I am the same way. I am a normal sized person. First thing when I wake up, I try to do at least 32 ounces of water. Sometimes I will aim to go towards that 64. It just really, to be completely honest, depends on morning and how much water I feel like I can hold before you get that, oh man, I think I'm gonna puke, and then I try to do my workout immediately after. So sometimes that doesn't. It's not a good morning for it.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. I'm a big fan of that. I think it makes the rest of my day go better. It seems it seems to, I don't know if for nothing else, make it easier to drink water the rest of the day.
Yeah, it's really it's really changed. I think too, again, some of this is the climate that I live in probably the altitude as well. But I just think, boy, I'm getting way more personal than I ever have in a podcast here. But you get older and sometimes you go to the bathroom bathroom more at night. So, there's a strategic cutoff point for me, of, hey, I know I'd love to drink a liter before I go to bed. Not good for sleep quality, but I think somewhat naturally we'll dehydrate because hopefully we're in bed, not drinking for 8 hours. So it just kind of like wakes me up in a way, not necessarily like caffeine does, but it just kind of like, it just, I don't know. It's just part of, I think I see it. Let's put it this way. I feel it when rarely I don't do it, but when I don't, around like 10 a.m. when I've been up for a couple of hours, I'm like, things aren't running like they normally do cognitively, physically. And it's just like, I've noticed the rare times I don't do it. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot to throw that liter in when I'm on vacation or something like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, you are 100% right. You feel better in every way when you do that.
Yeah.
And to speak to your point about hydration at night, yes. A lot of people have that problem, and everybody would have that problem if they drink a liter before.
Yeah.
But if you do start, if you do get your water in throughout the day and you do find that you are waking up multiple times throughout the night to urinate, that can actually be a sign that when we go back to that not breathing right thing, that there is something going on there that may be larger. If you haven't drank water, if you're cutting yourself off well before bedtime, like even a couple hours before bed, and you're still finding yourself waking in the night to urinate multiple times, there may be something bigger happening there, and that would be worth talking to a sleep doctor about. And even especially if you're a male, looking into any possible prostate issues, anything like that too. But yeah, I mean, in general, if you're drinking a lot of water all day and you get up to go to the bathroom during the night, though, yeah, that's relatively normal.
Yep, absolutely. So I think we might have time for one more if you got one for us.
So yeah, we didn't even talk about nutrition.
Yeah, well, let's just maybe touch on maybe introduce that, because I'm sure we could at least have one episode fully on that topic. So again, we're talking about some of the basics here. So do you have any basic advice on the nutritional end of things?
Yes. So to stay real surface level, real basic with nutrition, what I tell everybody, what I recommend to everybody, and this is almost irregardless of what you got going on, what your genetic makeup is, this and that. Of course, there is going to be medical exceptions to everything. And to put that blanket statement out there too, I am not your doctor. I don't know you. So please don't take any of this as medical advice, but in general with nutrition, it is anti-inflammatory. You want to go and be as anti-inflammatory as possible with what you are putting in your body, because our world, our environment, everything around us is going to cause a level of inflammation. And then if you can decrease that by any means, by what you are physically putting into your mouth, right, and choosing to consume, that is going to help you out tremendously. And because when we look at, what's the root cause of almost every disease out there? Inflammation. And if we backpedal, through everything else that we went through, sleep, breathing, lack of water, those kinds of things, if you aren't hitting those right, you are causing inflammation within your body. So if we can decrease inflammation by choosing the right foods for our body, that is huge. And please don't toss a label on it. Don't say I'm doing paleo diet. Don't say I'm doing keto diet. Don't say whatever. And if you are, that's fine. There was a long time in my life where I was very strict paleo, and I'm basically, that's how you would describe my diet now. Yeah. But it is not a diet. That is my lifestyle. That is how we cook. That is all we know. How often do I eat pasta? Very rarely. And do you want to know what I just spent a whole day doing yesterday with my son and my grandma, who's 85, Italian grandma? She was teaching us how to make dough and raviolis, which is amazing, delicious. But you want to know what that stuff is? It's poison. Don't tell my grandma.
So good. And I've got a bunch of other pastas that are paleo, more in that realm, edamame, those sort of things. But boy, is real pasta really good. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and it's delicious. And that's, and that's, there's a, that's the biggest thing I tell every patient though too, is don't stop living your life. Don't stop having fun because you don't think you can eat this stuff. Yeah, I still eat pizza. Heck yeah. I mean, I'm alive.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong on that, but it's the amount of time that you are doing that. How often are you consuming foods that cause inflammation? That's what we want. That's what we want to do. So to do a super quick, superficial overview, the biggest offenders when we talk about foods that are going to cause inflammation within your body, we're talking most traditional carbohydrates. We're talking your breads, your grains, your your pastas. Those kinds of things are typically large offenders. And then you get into your dairy for a lot of people is going to be a large offender. And then there's so many additives to processed food of any kind. So so stay away from that as much as you can. Buy organic. Eat food that's real and raw. Or not pre-cooked is what I'm saying there. Try to, buy real foods that you are going to cook and combine yourself as often as possible. And sugar is a humongous one that we want to try to avoid as much as possible. I mean, shoot, that's a neurotoxin. You want to talk about something to lower your HRV.
Yeah.
So
sorry everybody.
Yeah, dark chocolate though, you can still eat dark chocolate. It's really good.
Yes, dark, which is good. I can attest.
Yeah. So those types of things are what we want to be paying attention to when it comes to the nutrition end of things. Decreasing inflammation in every way possible. I just lost what I was about to add there, but oh well.
Let me throw out one more quick question for you.
Yeah.
Is just and boy, we've got deeper dives to do all over the place. We kind of knew this coming into this one. My question, pretty simple one, I think. But okay, you're doing daily heart rate variability monitoring.
Yes.
How can you use that as a tool to look at some of these strategies?
So you can use your heart rate, and you can actually use your heart rate variability as well with that. And what you do is a test, almost like an elimination diet, which is another thing that we should talk about at some future podcast. Yes. But if you consume a food and you look at your heart rate 30 minutes after, 60 minutes after, 9 minutes after, and you are seeing that your heart rate is going up, then we might have an indication there that you are having some kind of negative reaction to the food. Now, if you add in heart rate variability, and equally, we're seeing that after you eat this food, we are seeing a drop in your HRV. Right now, we have another indication that what is happening here? How is my body reacting to this food? Now, that has to be taken into a lot of context too, because of course, that means you literally have to be eating the food, sitting there and testing, because as we would have to talk about at a later point, how context affects heart rate variability and heart rate, for that matter too, as an objective measure. So obviously if you ate something and then, and then you got a phone call that something happened to your, significant other or something, well, that would not be a good time to test if this food was good or bad for you, because all indications would show it was the worst thing in the world for you.
Absolutely. And I think the same with, we talked about sleep and HRV, and, the interesting thing with I'm really nerding out about the inflammatory, anti-inflammatory characteristics of certain foods is eating, I would say what's typical in the Western diet creates a stress response within your body. Like in the fact we can, and our app helps measure this, I think is such a really cool tool to bring to the world of measure it. And the thing that I'd love to talk to you at a future episode as well is, hey, even if something's on my anti-inflammatory list, if you have an allergy to it, it might create that inflammatory response in you. And so that like the food allergy, and you talked about the elimination piece as well. So yeah. So much to chew on for future episodes. I know you get, I know you got a patient waiting to get some of the Dr. Dave healing going on. So Dr. Dave, thank you so much. I don't think I have to tell the audience, we are going to expand. We're going to do deep dives into probably each thing we brought up today. But Dr. Dave said, thanks for joining the show. So awesome to have your expertise as part of our team. And I'm already looking forward to our next conversation.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm happy to be here, and I am thrilled that the amount that we actually did get through today.
Awesome. Everybody have a great one. Take care of yourself, and we will see you next week.